Hello and welcome back. So I am currently getting ready. Today is Saturday. We're probably going to go into town and do some shopping and stuff like that. But while I was getting ready, I thought I would chat with you because I just finished my first month of being back on birth control pills, loestrin FE. Here it is. So I've just taken the last pill of this cycle, and I thought we would chat. Just making sure focus is back on me. I thought we would chat about how everything went, kind of the reasons, just to recap as to why I started these again, and just whatever comes up. And I'm talking kind of quietly because I don't want to wake up my fiance. He's already been kind of like up, but he's still sleeping in. I don't know. Okay, so I got my foundation out and we're gonna get started. I've already done like skincare and put on an SPF, and actually if there's any like weird marks on my face, I just shaved my face, like dermaplaned, and sometimes I scratch myself, so hopefully I didn't do that, but I feel like I always notice it later. And also the mirror is behind you, so if I'm looking there, that's why. Okay, so the reasons that I started birth control, let's back up actually. So I have kind of like some main health concerns that I'm focused on, and those are migraine with aura, yes, that's the diagnosis, but I've had chronic migraine in the past, and right now it's episodic, so like less frequent. But I have menstrually related migraine as well, like another like sub-diagnosis of migraine, where my migraine days will really cluster around my menstrual cycle. I also have general anxiety and ADHD, and I've been noticing, beyond the fact that I've always known that like my menstrual cycle was very much tied with my migraine health, I've been noticing how much my menstrual cycle impacts my mental health lately, and especially like my ability to focus and like just anxiousness gets so out of control. Actually, honestly, from not just the menstrual cycle, but like half of the month. So my entire like luteal phase and menstrual cycle, things are just like bad. And I've been on birth control pills in the past when I was in college. I started them, and I think the main reason beyond, preventing birth, that I started it was my skin, actually, because I had very significant acne, and it was very much hormone related, but like there was more to it, of course, but like hormones were a big aspect of it. And yeah, like I said, you can maybe see some marks now, but those are actually not, mostly in general. Like, of course, I still get a breakout here and there, but the acne situation has pretty much been resolved since I started the birth control pills in college, because the marks currently are probably mostly from, just irritation. I have very reactive, sensitive skin, so the shaving situation could have triggered some sort of pigmentation. But yeah, I took some birth control pills for years, and everything was totally fine. But then I kind of did some research, and I realized that technically I wasn't supposed to be taking a pill that had estrogen in it, because these pills have progestin and estrogen. Because of my migraine with aura diagnosis, that put me at an increased, I always have trouble saying this sentence, I don't know why, an increased risk of stroke. And then the estrogen in these pills also adds to that risk. So technically I was like, oh wait, I'm not supposed to do that. So after I discovered that, I talked to my doctor about it, and we moved to a different pill that I assume must have just been the progestin only pill. And I hated it. I felt terrible while I was taking it. Which was so weird, because like the other pill that I was taking, I didn't have any issues with. I just kind of stopped taking it because I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't be taking it. So after the progestin only pill wasn't working out, I wanted an IUD. Another reason for that was because this is very much the ADHD. I'm really bad at taking medication consistently. I'm very forgetful. I have a really hard time like making that a routine. So I kind of always was leaning away from wanting to take medication. There was also like a weird phase in my life around that time where I was like distrustful of medication and the whole medical field, kind of just frustrations related to my situation with migraine. But yeah, I wanted an IUD. I had an appointment, and we tried to put one in, and it went so horribly, and like just was such a difficult attempt of a procedure that we couldn't do it. And we ended up, I forget if it was that day or a later appointment, we ended up doing the arm implant, the Nexplanon. I also had a horrible time with that because the entire time I had it in my arm, which was 3 months roughly, because I wanted to give it a go. You're gonna think I'm crazy that I waited that long, but like the entire time I was in agony, I was suffering, I was like constantly dealing with migraine symptoms and just so debilitated, in so much pain for like the full length of time that I was on, like had that Nexplanon, and it was so bad for me. So then I became just scared of hormones after kind of sort of three, but the attempt of putting an IUD in was just more of like, it was a painful situation than anything. Like, I don't know how my body would have reacted to it. After that, I was scared of hormones because I was like, clearly my body hates this. So I ended up taking that out and doing the copper IUD, which was an even more traumatic procedure because that was actually successful because it had to be. Yeah, no, that was really bad. But the copper IUD lasts for 10 years, I think. And so like that was a big benefit to me, and the fact that I didn't have to regularly take medication was a big benefit, and then kind of my wariness of medication and hormones and everything, like that helped ease those anxieties as well. And really I've had no problem with the copper IUD. Like it had, okay, well that's actually a lie, but I didn't think I was having any issues. I did start having more heavy periods and everything like that, but like it wasn't anything I was that worried about. Okay, just brushed them a little bit, we'll come back to them. But the issues I started having, it took years because I got it put in 2018 and it is currently 2025. Oh my gosh, that's wild. So over the years of like experiencing my menstrual cycle without the impact of added hormones or whatever, at first it was very nice, and then I became very comfortable and like aware of different parts of my cycle, and that was very exciting. But then kind of all the issues came in where it's like I was noticing how bad my health was in the menstrual cycle, but especially like leading up to it with the luteal phase, like things were not good. Let's kind of skip ahead a little bit. I did talk about this with some physicians and everything, and was given advice and tried some different things, and it wasn't really helping. So I kind of landed on like, I need to just get it back on a hormonal birth control regimen. Like I want stability in my hormones. That's the goal, because I think it's those fluctuations that are really hard for my body. Like I really thrive on stability. I always say the migraine brain hates change, and I think that the ADHD brain probably also thrives with consistency. So like I just really wanted consistency with my hormone levels. So a little over a month ago, I did see my physician and talked about this, and we agreed to start a birth control pill, obviously. And it's actually estrogen containing. We did talk about like the risks that that could potentially have, but it is a lower estrogen from my understanding. I haven't actually done like the research there, but that is what she told me. So we did talk about the risks and everything, but like we ultimately decided to go to a pill that has estrogen. And one of the things that she was really noticing is that she was hoping that this would make my menstrual cycle less heavy, because I was having very long periods and like very heavy bleeding and like a lot of symptoms, obviously. So she was really hoping to have lighter a lighter cycle is something. And also I was very inconsistent. Like I hadn't really noticed that because it wasn't like obscenely inconsistent, but when I was trying to implement some of the things that had been recommended by other physicians shortly before that, I realized I wasn't able to do some of the like recommendations because I wasn't sure when my period was coming, like very specifically, because it could vary by like 10 days. So we were looking, so my goal was the hormone stability, and ultimately I'm very interested in not having my period anymore because like it has been such a frustration for so long, but like I don't know if that's just a reaction to having like such horrible times with my period. Yeah, and I wanted that hormone stability to keep things level and hopefully promote my mental health and not have such a hard time for half of the month, and hopefully also like see some sort of benefit with my migraine frequency as well. And her hope was more of like, of course, my goals, but also the lighter periods and more consistency. And we are going to try me being on these birth control pills for 3 months and then follow up and see what we want to do from here, because I do still have my copper IUD in. So this is month 1 essentially, and I have, as I told you, just finished the whole cycle of the month today. And here is kind of what I've discovered. So first of all, this was a terrible month to really pull any reference from because I was sick for almost half of it, or probably a solid half of it. I started the pills early February, and I was going on a vacation with my family for a full week. So also that's not in my normal routine, and I'm sure it was hard to determine if I was feeling anything differently on the pills because I was already not in my normal routine. And then when we came back, I was very much ill for a solid week. Then I thought I was getting better, and then I was still sick for like another week after that. So that brought us through like almost the entire month. But I have been feeling better for the last week-ish. And I actually did notice that that's typically where I'm really struggling, right? Because it's right before my period. I'm in the midst of my luteal phase. My mental health is terrible. I'm super anxious. I'm very migraine-y. And I kind of became aware randomly and like was just thinking about it one day. I'm like, I'm not feeling that bad. Like I kind of just feel normal right now. And again, it's really hard to determine if that's legit because I was sick for like 2 weeks prior to that. So I don't know if like comparatively I just felt great because I had felt so bad for so long, or if I actually was just like not feeling that bad. I did experience some breakthrough bleeding, which I looked into, and apparently it's pretty normal. So going back to this like pill container, just these last 4, I'm sorry, it's not focusing. These last 4 days is when like the period is supposed to be, like those pills are the different pills. But I did experience some breakthrough bleeding, I think on this Tuesday. Am I on the right thing? Tuesday. Well, maybe it was Monday. Maybe I'm a liar because I thought it was a day before. So it must have been Monday. Yeah, I did have some breakthrough bleeding, which I looked into. Apparently that's pretty normal. But symptom-wise, things have been really good, okay? Because technically I'm on day like 4 of my period, but like really, I don't know. I started wearing my menstrual cup the day that I got the breakthrough bleeding, and kind of just like have been wearing that since, like obviously taking it out and cleaning it regularly, but there's been some amount of blood each day since Monday or Tuesday. Apparently I don't actually know. But symptom-wise, it's been very interesting. I did get a burst of anxiety 2 days this week. I think it was probably Monday and Tuesday, or it was Tuesday and Wednesday. I can't remember exactly. But I did get a burst of anxiety, but it was nothing like what I've been experiencing lately, because usually it's weeks-long bursts of anxiety instead of 2 days. And usually it's much more severe from what I remember as well. Like I was definitely feeling the physical symptoms of anxiousness and like uncomfortable, but it wasn't as debilitating as I recall it being in previous months. And I did have some like physical symptoms as well. Like, I don't know, the ADHD, okay, before we get to the physical symptoms, the ADHD stuff was really hard to track because I had been sick, and that really threw me off, and I got very inconsistent about taking my ADHD pills, so I don't have a solid baseline of like how I'm supposed to be feeling and how I was feeling the like later half of my cycle. Like things were just wonky. But okay, physical symptom wise, I did get like normal menstrually related symptoms. Like my back has been aching this whole week. I'm getting like cramps, but not as severe as I'm used to. Like I think last night I was sitting on the couch and I was like, oh my God, ouch, that hurts. But like I'm used to that happening like all the time. Like I used to cramp a solid 7 days before my cycle, which used to be how I knew when my cycle was going to be coming, because it was always like a specific 7 days before, and I would always get like a lot of cramping on that day. Then I would get a lot of cramping a few days before the first couple days of the cycle, and then cramping after the cycle ended. Like I'm used to like a lot of cramping, which can be correlated with the copper IUD, but I don't feel like I remember that early on when I was just on the copper IUD. Like I feel like that came later, I don't know. Or maybe it's just always been that way and I just wasn't paying attention, because I am really bad at paying attention to the physical signs and symptoms I'm experiencing. Don't know. But I'm used to getting a lot more symptoms as well, like breast pain and like, what else? My brain just went blank. I have been getting a lot of fatigue, but again, it's been really hard to figure out what's going on because I was sick for so long, so I was super fatigued from that, and who knows if I'm still like kind of dealing with coming out of that. I don't know. The most interesting and exciting thing I want to talk about is my experience with migraine this month. Specifically the last week. So I'm bad. I don't track my migraine frequency and symptoms. I always talk about tracking and how important it is, but I'm not great at it. And honestly, that's just because I've been pretty stable for a long time. I know my triggers, my early warning signs. I know what medications and treatments work for me. My frequency has been on the low side for what I'm used to in my life. I'm used to again, chronic migraine where at least half the days of the month are migraine days, but lately it's been 2-ish days a week. So I don't have exact data for any of this, but I do know for most of the month I did not deal with much migraine related issues. I remember the week of the vacation, there was only one kind of rough symptomatic day that I had. And then when I was sick, I remember the first week, there was one day I had a headache, which I'm saying it that way because it's such a bizarre experience for me, because I know a lot of people are confused with the discrepancy between what's a headache and what's a migraine attack and what makes those two things different. I don't get headaches. I don't know what those feel like. I get migraine attacks and those are very familiar for me in my body. So I think the second day I was very much sick, I got a headache and I was this is the weirdest thing in the whole world. It always baffles me. I do think the next day I did have migraine symptoms, but they were pretty easily treated. But I only remember that day being specifically a migraine-y day. Again, it's tough because I'm not tracking it, but also because I have very easily treatable attacks most of the time, not in my menstrual cycle, but most of the time I just kind of take a painkiller or my Nurtec, which is my prescribed medication, and it is fine and I can carry on with my life most of the time. So I only remember 2 standout days in the first 2 weeks, and both of them were honestly not that rough. But for the 2 weeks that I was sick, it was tough because I was taking cold and flu medication very consistently, which included a painkiller, which honestly kind of made me nervous because of the risk of medication overuse headache or medication adaptation headache. If you take specific medications like painkillers or prescribed migraine medications more frequently than they're prescribed, your body adapts to it and it becomes a very vicious cycle where you're more prone to getting symptoms and then they're way harder to treat and it tends to get more severe over time. And I've experienced that before. So I was a little bit nervous the whole time that I was taking cold and flu medication with painkiller in it because I'm I know that this can put me at risk. I always kind of have that weird anxiety around medication because I've experienced what it can do before, but ooh. But because I was taking painkiller very consistently, I don't know if I was treating migraine days and not knowing it, you know what I mean? But anyway, this last week is usually a very, 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 very tough time where my attacks are not easily treated and they come every day. So I've been so blown away because I think I've only had one migraine day in the last week. And I treated it with a painkiller, an over-the-counter painkiller, which I can get away with usually, but I'm not used to that being even conceptually possible when it's menstrually related. Usually my prescribed medication doesn't work in that time frame. But yeah, I think it was about midweek, so it was about Wednesday, and that evening I started noticing ooh, I'm feeling really yucky beyond normal period-y stuff. I was able to tell my head was starting to hurt. I was getting the other symptoms that I'm very familiar with, but I just took a painkiller and things were fine. So I'm a little nervous because I feel it's gonna come and hit me later, but that's just anxiety. So I've been very impressed. I've been very, very, very impressed. Yeah, I'm very curious to see how things are gonna go when I start taking the regular pills again tomorrow morning, because I'm used to my period being a million years long. So is my period gonna be over? I feel I haven't bled that much. I feel I haven't suffered enough, you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm gonna throw this away. The one thing I didn't talk about, and I mentioned this talking about something else, but due to my ADHD and my forgetfulness, especially with taking medication consistently, I did struggle a little bit here, okay? I did take every single pill every day and everything, but I did forget, I would say, I think 3 days this month I forgot to take medication, and I've been taking them every morning because that's when I take my ADHD pills, so that's become kind of a habit for me. It's when I take my first ADHD pill. The second one of the day, it's always in the hands of chance to see if I'm actually going to take it or not, because that's not a solid routine. But there were 3 times, I think 2 of them I took it at night instead, because that's when I remembered that I hadn't taken it. So I took it as soon as I remembered. It was still the same day, but it was the other half of the day. And then there was one time that I don't have a clue what happened, but I happened to look into like this container of pills that I prepared for myself for like my other pills that I take for like each morning or whatever. And I noticed that one of my birth control pills were in there like already. And I hadn't taken the one for that morning yet, so I had forgotten at some point another pill, and I have no idea when that happened. So I don't know what happened there, but I was a little bit forgetful. But I do think there were some extenuating circumstances. I was on vacation, I was sick, so I'm curious to see if I'll be more consistent next month. I don't know, but I think that's it. And I'm pretty sure. So that's it for me. I think I'll check in with you next month if there's anything to talk about. If not, I will follow up after my medical appointment where we have tried 3 months of this and I see what I want to do. We have an intruder. She'll say bye with me. It's my good girl. She's actually not good. Oh my gosh, we're not focused. We're not in focus. Is she in focus? She needs to be. She's not good because she was actually just on her tie out and she saw one of her friends walking by and she broke her collar. So we need to get her a new collar. Right? Okay, toodles.